Welcome back to the shop, my friends. Steve here at SKS Props, and today's build video, I'm going to be honest with you, is specifically for my youngest daughter. Her and I are both big fans of the video game Little Nightmares, and the creators of that game just put out a new game called REANIMal, and it's got that same awesome look to it, the same creepy vibes, and while watching it, I told her that I would make her the bunny mask that is worn by the girl. Now, this video is going to be a little bit different because I have two different ways to put this mask together. Number one is going to be out of foam, and I have free PDF files available for this over on my website that you can download, transfer it to the foam, and cut it out. Number two, I've been working on my digital sculpting in Nomad, so I also have a free STL that you can download for this and print it off at home. Now, if you look at these two masks, they vary in their painting and weathering, and this is interchangeable between the two of them. So it's not saying that if I'm doing the printed one, that's the one that I need to do the detailed painting and weather on. No, the techniques for this can also be applied to foam. So I want to show you what it takes to put this mask together and paint it. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with the 3D print since the finishing techniques can also be used on the foam. The mask was sculpted in Nomad and printed on my Bamboo H2S in gray PLA. To clean up the overhang areas, I'm going to try a new technique. Elegoo had sent me some fast curing UV putty. This material can be applied with a metal spatula over the rough parts of the mask. This was done to the more noticeable areas at the bottom and top. After being applied, the putty can then be cured using a UV lamp. This will solidify the medium and make it easier to sand smooth. I'll have a link down below if you want to check it out. I'd like the mask to have a texture to it, so I'm going to be doing a type of paper mache, using PVA glue and ripped up Kleenexes. The PVA glue is mixed with some distilled water to help thin it out. This could then be applied to the surface using a chip brush. While the glue is still wet, ripped up sections of the Kleenex could then be applied to the mask. I'm purposely not trying to smooth it out because I want all of those wrinkles to remain. After layer 1 was allowed to dry for a little bit, I then went back and applied a second layer in more selective areas. Using a hairdryer to lock it in, the mask was then left to dry overnight. To paint my mask, I start off with some red oxide primer. This is then followed up with a dusting of camouflage tan and Valspar flat white. To keep with the creepy atmosphere of the game, I'm going to be making shadows using purples and blues. The first one being some Purple Swarm speed paint from Army Painter. This is heavily diluted and then fed through my Iwata airbrush. The second color is going to be some Plasmatic Bolt applied in the same way. The paint itself is fairly translucent and I'm keeping the PSI around 20. To grime the mask up some, I'm going to be using a wash of Liquitex Burnt Sienna. Like the previous two colors, a lot of water is going to be used here to dilute the pigment. Ash Blonde Dirty Down aging spray can then be selectively applied to the mask. This is water soluble, so I can reactivate it and take some away as needed. A little more concentrated burnt sienna can then be applied to certain parts of the mask using a mop brush. This really emphasizes all those textures that are created by the Kleenex. As a final pass, I'm going to dry brush a mixture of Liquitex Heavy Body Parchment and Titanium White. This color is applied to the mask in specific areas and I'm not using any water. To make this mask wearable, I'm going to be using some black twine for each side. The twine is fed through the holes and then tied off on the sides. Then I can adjust the overall length and tie it together in the back. Some black chiffon fabric is going to be used to cover the eye. This will allow the wearer to see out, but you can't see in. So after the fabric is cut to size, some low temp hot glue can affix it into place. I can then trim away any excess material and secure the fabric down. And to make the mask more comfortable to wear, a thin strip of upholstery foam can be hot glued to the back side. I'm still learning a lot about digital sculpting, but I'm pretty happy with how this project turned out. Next up, let's make another version but out of foam. To start, I'm going to take part A, and this is going to be traced and cut out of some 6mm foam. I also make sure to mark the eyes and the hole on the side. I rough cut a bunch of the material out of the eyes. The rest of this will be cleaned up using a rotary tool. I also use a 1/4 inch leather punch for the hole on the side. A rotary tool can then be used to distress the foam and help round over the sides. And after a light heat treatment, I can start to manipulate the mask to get that rounded shape. Part B will make up the layer underneath, and this is going to be traced and cut out of some 4mm foam. I use various types of leather punches to create the holes for the eye. Part B can now be glued to the back side of Part A. The important thing to note here is that it needs to be glued into place while Part A is curved. This will allow Part B to complement this curve, and it will retain this shape. To soften the layering in the eyes, I'm going to be using some foam clay. Water is applied to the surface of the foam to help the clay stick. The foam clay can then be rolled out and pressed into the outside edge of the eye. Now I did apply more foam clay than necessary so I could use my finger to remove excess material. And additional water is used to help smooth out the surface. I also added a little bit of foam clay in the front to make a small protrusion for the nose. After the foam clay had been allowed to dry, I could then prime the surface with 2 light coats of Plasti-Dip. And I decided to use the same tan and white that I applied to the print. And I followed the same process of attaching the black twine to complete the mask. And I tell you what, this was a fun exercise to see how I could use different mediums to achieve the same goal. So you all can see what it takes to put together the bunny mask from REANIMAL, and hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial and the 2 different ways to do it. And if you are building any of my builds or utilizing some HD foam, be sure to tag me at SKSProps on Twitter and Instagram because I love seeing your creations. Until next time, build your best with the best HD foam.